Hey everyone, how is it going? Can you see me, hear me okay? I hope everyone is having a good time. Did you sail this week? If you did, say hello in the chat. Uh, yeah, I want to know if you sailed this week. This footage is not from this week. This is from the spring on Maui. And yeah, I found this and I thought it was a good way to start things off. Just some random Maui clips. And then we're going to get into the Facebook coaching. We've got 2 weeks, 2 weeks of Facebook coaching to go through because I was traveling last week, Sunday. This week, I'm pretty busy getting ready for the windsurfing master classes coming up in Denmark. The first one starts on the weekend. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited. And so I've got a lot to do, a lot to get ready. And yeah, Jorg. Hey Jorg. Jorg is going to be on one of the master classes. You had some light wind freestyle. Awesome. What were you working on? What was the light wind freestyle? What was it all about? Uh, yeah, light wind freestyle is a great way to improve your overall windsurfing skills. It ties into wave sailing. It's fun to do. It helps with even your free riding because you have better sail skills, better board skills, better awareness of what's going on, and all of that transfers everywhere. So right on. Suna is also going to be on a master class. Hello, hello. No sailing the last 3 weeks. Yeah, the wind is loading up for the master classes. Awesome. Hello, Jeff. Jeff. How are you doing? Have you been on the water? Ragnar is also going to be on a masterclass. Hello, Ragnar. He's been training his tacks on a 5/8. Awesome. Tacks. Tacking is one of the best ways that you can improve your wave sailing because it helps you stay upwind, it helps you turn around quickly, which means that you're getting on the waves that you want to get on. And being on the waves that you want to get on is 90% of the battle. Um, if you're on the wrong wave, all the technique in the world isn't going to help you. And if you're on the right wave, let me move my mic a little bit closer. Can you guys hear me better now? I didn't realize that was so far away. But what I was trying to say is if you're on the wrong wave, all the technique in the world isn't going to help you. And if you're on the right wave and on the right place, then yes, the technique will help you. But even if you don't have the right technique or your technique is more basic, you can still ride the wave in a really nice way. Because so much of riding a wave is not about the technique, but actually about where you are on the wave and what wave you're on. And so being able to tack, which helps you stay upwind and helps you turn around quickly, helps you get on those waves, is a super important skill. Um, Another thing to talk about, this is something I talk about in a lot of the coaching, and I'm just going to take an example from this clip uh, because I just saw it, and so I'll bring it up, and then we'll jump into the other coaching. When you're trying to figure out where to go on the wave, one of the things that I tell people, and I use this heuristic myself as well, is if you're unsure about the timing, you're unsure about the spot, the best way to try to get an off the lip and to train your off the lips is to look for what I call a corner pocket section. And so that looks a little something like this, the section that I'm going into. And so it's a section that's coming at you. And so you're upwind of it. And then you're just turning into this section. And it's a lot easier to time a section that's coming at you than to time a section that's going away from you or a wave that hasn't broken yet. So like this, you can see where the wave is breaking. You can do your bottom turn and sail up to it. And if you're a little bit off, it doesn't really matter because you can adjust at the end and then get that board positioned in the high five like we talked about, presenting the bottom of the board to the lip. And you can see I didn't do a super vertical bottom trim here. And I could have gone more vertical if this section were closer. But that's the beauty of these corner pocket sections that look exactly like this picture here, is that you can then adjust your turn to make sure that the timing is right. So you have the freedom, you have the flexibility, and all you got to do is show the bottom of the board to do that high five with the lip. Boom, energy transfer. And that is what we're trying to do. All right, Tomas. Tomas has a question. Yes, I was just in Marseille and I was with Fabian. I spent a bunch of days with Fabian. We were um, hanging out, looking at boards. I interviewed him. I did a video interview based on the questions that were asked in the Facebook group. There was a problem with the camera towards the end of the interview. So some of the questions, unfortunately, were lost. But I remember the answers to most of them. So I'll go through them today and I'll try to write them out and then I'll publish the rest of it as well. But super interesting. So Tomas' question is, did I order new customs? Yes, I've got 2 new custom boards coming. And normally I'm pretty, uh, how do I say this? I'm pretty exact with what I want in my customs. I've been getting custom boards for a long time. How long has it been? I think I had my first custom, I must have been 13 or 14 with my first sponsorship deal. I mean, I was already competing in events when I was 13. I did my first World Cup when I was 14, did the first year on tour when I was 15. So now I'm 33. It's been, let's say it's at least 19 years that I'm getting custom boards, some years more, some years less. But I have a general idea of how things feel, concaves and rails and lengths and all of that stuff. And in the past, I've often had a really clear idea of what I want and what I need, something for the competitions or maybe something for Hokipa, something for bigger waves. But what I felt like this time is I need to let go and I need to let Fabian just do his magic. And that's something I've done in the past before. It's not the first time I've ever done something like this, but for the last few years, I've been pretty specific, either trying to get copies of boards that I love or slightly different versions of boards that I love or other specific ideas specifically for the kinds of conditions that I'm sailing in. And for this, I said to Fabian, okay, I want you to do your magic, do what you think is interesting, and I want a short one and a long one, and they're both about the same literage, about 87 liters. Just give me a short and a long, and the long one is for bigger waves, and the short one is for smaller waves. And so I've got one I think is 219, and then one that's like 228. And he's doing a single concave on the bottom, which he's been really enjoying. The Taboo boards next year, the curves are going to have a single concave on the bottom and he really likes how that feels. He feels like the rail catches a lot better. We've got a bunch of questions, but I'm going to skip ahead because Max has a relevant question. Hello, Max. Hope you're good. So Max asks if Fabian, we're going to get to everyone else's question, don't worry. Max asks, does Fabian shape on a CNC or by hand? He does a lot with the CNC. It's amazing. He spent a year setting up a CNC machine in Marseille, and he's obviously capable of shaping by hand, and he does a lot of hand shaping. In the past, the custom boards that I was getting and that he was making were done in Cobra, and so there was some CNCing done and then some handwork done that he was involved with, and some of the Cobra employees were also doing. But the board gets CNC'd multiple times, how I understand it. So the blank is cut out by a machine, and then the high density foam is put on, and then that's CNC'd. The bottom shape is CNC'd. I have videos of some of this stuff. I'll show you guys. I'll post it in the group. So there's a lot of CNC action going on. And then there's, I think, a little bit of hand shaping in some places, but it's really a lot with the machine. And then, of course, there's, when you're doing the final glassing, there's some final glassing in the hot coat, how you're doing the rails and the edges. There's a lot of experience that's needed in that. but a lot now is done by machine, which is pretty cool. It should make it easy to get repeatable boards, and that's always been an issue with customs in the past with windsurf boards. All right, let's go back in the questions. Jeff, how's it going, Jeff? Jeff, my Cape Town plans. I've been talking with the wife, trying to figure this out. I still would like to come. We're trying to figure out if we come, how we come, when we come, December, January. I would like to do coaching in Cape Town. We're looking at December or January or both. So if you are interested in doing the coaching with me in Cape Town, I would like to do a masterclass. Jeff has said he's interested, which would be awesome. Fritz, I don't know if Fritz is watching, but Fritz has said he's interested. So we've got a few people interested. I think there's a couple of other people I've been talking with that would be interested. So if you are also interested and you haven't let me know, do let me know if you're interested in Cape Town masterclass coaching, because that will help make it easier for me to finalize my plans. I haven't been to Cape Town in a while, and I would really like to. Jeff, are you in Cape Town now? What's your plan? Let us know in the comments. Axel, no sailing. Oh no. Yeah, but it's good to free your mind too. I get it. Oh, Goose, how's it going? Greg, good evening. Good evening. Tomas saying he might join Cape Town. Awesome. Yeah, just one last point, and then we're going to jump into the Facebook group. So Axel says that he's had a little break from windsurfing the last couple of weeks. And from what you were posting, Axel, you've been getting on the water a lot. You were posting your clip Muller, you're having a lot of sessions. And it's good to pair that with a break. It's perfect. That's what I would recommend. I think you want to get a lot of days on the water in a row if you can, then have a little break. And then when the wind comes back, get on the water again. And not only is that healthy, it also helps you improve because then your brain is processing all these things that you were working on when you were on the water. All right, I'm going to load up the Facebook page. Let's get the Facebook page loaded up and let's just jump right into the coaching. All right. All right, here we go. This is the Facebook group. You guys know the Facebook group. If you don't know the Facebook group, if you're coming across this video on YouTube or somewhere else, it's Graham Ezzy's Windsurf Coaching Community on Facebook. And there is an awesome community of people here. It's not just me. In fact, it's the community that makes it special. And yeah, it's awesome. All right, first up, we have a post from Tom where he posts his crashes. Let's watch some crashes. So crashing, this is a part of getting better. It's a part of learning. And so Tom, right on, and thank you for posting the crashes. I know a lot of people don't want to share the crashes, myself included sometimes. I was watching that video of Maui that I posted at the beginning of this, and like some of the crashes, I was like, oh no. But everyone crashes. I crash, all the pros crash, Costa crashes, whoever, you name it, Brasinho. Crashing is part of the game and necessary for getting better. If you want to learn something new, the only way to learn it is to crash first. So this is awesome. Thank you, Tom, for sharing your crashes and showing us all the hard work that you're putting in. Oh yeah, tacking. Like I was saying, tacks are important. If you're interested in awesome, improving your tack, check out the masterclass on tacking. The link is somewhere in this post. It's on the my.windsurfing masterclass website. All right, next up we have this post from Mal, and this is a post that we've talked about before. And she has back pain, and it comes from sailing the beginner gear when she's teaching. I think there is probably a solution to the pain, either changing something with the gear or changing the stance. But in order to know how to change it, we have to see a video of of the sailing. Otherwise, I can't diagnose what the issue is. Next up, Tomas did a review, a foot strap review. Cool. I like this kind of content. I'm not going to spend a lot of time going into it. There's not a lot for me to add, but thank you, Tomas. This is cool content. I like the initiative on this, going in depth on something like foot straps. Here's a video that John posted about Ola and his boards, which Ola also posted. And all right, so here are the questions for the shaper. So these are the questions that I asked Fabian, and I've got the video of this. So I don't want to go into I don't want to go through spend too much time going through these because I have Fabian's answers, but the camera did have an issue. So the last 30% looked like it didn't, the files got corrupted. There was an issue with the memory card. So, but I remember the answers, and so I can go through some of these. So the question from Hans: how do rocker lines scale smaller to larger models? And so it's going to be different for larger sailors. Instead of making a floater board for a smaller sailor, because a sailor has more weight, you can use a straighter rocker on a bigger board for a bigger person, whereas a lighter person would want more rocker in that bigger board. So Jeff asked, how do you make a board grip in the bottom turn for a pro, and what compromises do you need to make for a regular dude? And Fabian's answer was he doesn't really do anything different. So for the pros, there might be a little bit more rocker, which makes the early planing less easy, and makes initiating the turns a little bit easier. But for the most part, at least for the boards that Fabian is making, the decurve is a pretty hardcore waveboard, and it's meant to be a board for pros or for high-level amateurs. And for someone that wants more of a easy access waveboard, then Taboo makes the bomb. So Fabian's answer was that the decurve is also a board for pros. And the difference between those two boards is that the decurve has a straighter rocker. It's more back foot oriented, has a wider tail, more of a cutoff tail. The straps are farther back. All right. So this is a question from Jorg, and John had a similar question here about when to change. And it depends. The boards, they go through, and this is the same with sails when we're doing development. They go through small changes some years and big changes other years. And so sometimes you have these small gradual steps, and then over time that leads to a bigger change. And sometimes you just have a big change. You figure out something that is really different but a lot better, and you put that into place. I think in 2016 with Taboo we had that. With the sails, we had that in 2020 and 2021, where we were making really big changes that were really good. But then other times, it's this small evolution. So Jeff is saying, when do you use V and single concave? And so V versus single concave also depends where it is on the bottom of the board. My general feeling is that V wants to sink and concave wants to sit on the water. So V, you feel like you're kind of sinking in the water and the board kind of rolls back and forth. With the concave, you're sort of floating above the water, and it's a little bit harder to get on the rail. The board wants to sit flat, but once you get on the rail, it really holds. Whereas with the V, you're kind of rocky on the V. And so if you have, for example, that V in the tail, it can provide you stability in high winds because it's kind of sinking that tail down. Whereas if you have, for a waveboard, that V in the nose, it can make it feel kind of unstable because then the nose is stuck down. So what else? What other questions? Do you guys have any specific questions that you asked in here that you want the answer to? And like I said, I'm going to post the video from Fabian, but some of it was corrupted. So Billy asked, Why are waveboards so expensive? How did they get so expensive? I think this is a really interesting question. The answer has a couple parts. First, it's all petroleum products, and the price of petroleum products has gone up over the last few years. Second, there's a lot of labor. So each board has about 60 plus hours, man hours in it, and the wages in Thailand have been increasing. Thailand is where most of the production boards in windsurfing are made. So the cost of boards have gone up significantly because there is a lot of work to be done. Now, why is there so much handwork done? There's even, it's more man hours in the Cobra board maybe than a custom board because some of the processes are slower in the big factory setting. And some of the automation that is possible when you're doing really big numbers isn't possible because the numbers for windsurfing boards are just so small. So the like Fabian was telling me when he was doing boards for BIC and they were making, I think they were making 60,000 boards a year of one of their models. The every step of the process was automated. You could make a board in 15 minutes. And now it's 60 man hours to make a production board in Cobra for the wave boards. Some of the other boards that have more models produced do have more automation in their processes, but for the wave boards, it's what they call semi-custom. So the wave boards, and this is true for all the brands, just the number of wave boards that are sold is so much less than in previous years. There's a lot of handwork done in the process, and so that costs more. Um, a question about relating surfboard shapes to windsurf board shapes. One of the things that Fabian pointed out is that the mast track and the pressure from the mast foot makes a huge difference compared to surfboards, right? With the windsurf board, you've got sort of your three legs. And so it's just a really different dynamic. And then in addition, you're just going a lot faster. What is the right towing angle for the fin box? 2 degrees. 2 degrees, we'd say. Um, and what's the shortest well-performing waveboard? Depends on the size. So he said that he's made some really small boards for Sarah Hauser, for example. She's short and light, and so the boards are really small. For 5 fin boxes, he felt like on the Taboo boards, they did that for a few years, but on the beach, everyone was using it as a thruster. All the team riders were using it as a thruster. And so rather than adding the cost and the weight of the extra 2 boxes, they just switched to three boxes. But otherwise, Fabian thinks that 5 boxes can make sense if that's something that you want to do. But in the Taboo boards, just from their experience, it seemed like everyone was using them as a thruster. So the 2 extra boxes to be able to make it into a quad were redundant. So Tamaz asked about mast track placement. Why not moving it back farther? So Fabian's answer was that right now, yes, most of the time we're riding the mast track too far in the middle or back. But if you have the mast track too far forward, it's not going to be catastrophic for the board. But if you do have it too far back, it can be. And so there's sort of a safety measure in having the mast track where they are placed, where it's not possible to put it so far back that it's really detrimental to the performance of the board. Now, something he brought up is why not do a shorter mast track? That would be lighter, and you could do it then more exact of where the mast track would be. And the answer is that the longer ones are actually stronger, and stronger for the board. So that's why. So Leon asked about his favorite board. He's got a twin fin that he really likes that slides out like crazy. So it will never be a production board because it just slides out all the time, but is something that he really enjoys sailing himself in the waves. Ian asked about footstrap width. So the Taboo, every brand is different from Cobra on the production boards. So Taboo boards do have 14 centimeter width. So Rasmus asked, why not a quad? We just, all the riders seem to be happy with thrusters. I like thrusters. Like I said before, they made the 5-box boards and people were just riding them as thrusters. So James asked about the fins, and Fabian does test a variety of fins. It looks like next year the K4 fins are going to come on the Taboo boards, which is awesome. I've been using the K4 fins for years. Big fan. Yeah. So what do the team riders have that the production boards don't have? It really depends on the team rider. I think Takuma is riding quads. He's the one rider on quads. And then Tama, Tama's really light, so he's got smaller boards. He has way more rocker than even I have, let alone the production boards. Some of my boards are kind of similar to the production boards, but in general, and this is like my answer rather than Fabian's, the production boards are made for everywhere. Like I have my Decurve 88. I'll take that with me on so many random trips. I'll take that to Cape Town. I'll take that on a trip to Portugal because I know I can ride it comfortably in onshore conditions, down the line conditions, and it's a one board solution. That said, I could have a little bit higher performance for specific conditions, but with trade-offs in other conditions. So at Hokipa, where I have a really long board, that has a ton of stability in the big choppy waves, but I could never ride that in the onshore conditions because it just would be so hard to turn and it would feel clunky. But optimized for, mast and a half choppy Hokipa, it's great. But the production board is what I would take just everywhere because I know it works. Now about all these labels. So Fabian says as well, he thinks that the labels are bullshit. And that's not how he designs boards. He's not thinking in these European, extreme, sideshore, onshore. There's like sort of back foot versus front foot, sort of strong wave, like sort of a heavy wave versus softer wave, early planing versus not, and those are characteristics, but those sort of marketing labels aren't really meaning much. All right, Max has a question. All right, Max, your question is, does Fabian design different boards for me and Thomas because of the weight difference? Yeah. So Thomas has super different rocker in addition to different volumes. I mean, I'm riding 87 liters and he's riding, actually, I don't know his volume, but I think it's like low 70s. He must have like 73, 72. Maybe he has a 68 even. Thomas is pretty light. Maybe a 74, 75. I would guess low 70s, but also a lot of rocker. He's just got a ton of rocker in his boards. He's lighter, different kind of sailor, and yeah, just needs a different thing. But some of the principles are the same. I mean, so some of the bottom shape principles I think really transfer over, like how the concaves are. Rail shape doesn't. So that's something that's interesting. So Thomas was really to these dropped rails, so with a lower apex. So if you think of the rail of the board, it has a curve, right? And if you're bringing the apex of the curve lower, dropping the rail, you're making the rail sharper. And Thomas was really liking that. It was helping him engage the turns, and it felt really good for him. I had a few boards like that. They're actually boards that Fabian shaped for himself, but yeah, they're like 83 liters, so I could use them. And I didn't like it at all because I was pushing too hard for the thin rail. And so I like a bit of a chunkier rail. And I'm a bigger guy. I go to the gym. I like to push really hard. And the rails were sticky. It just didn't work. So there's an example where what works for him just doesn't work for me because we have such different bodies and approaches. All right. Moving on. Hey, Hans. Looking forward to seeing you. Hans is also on the masterclass coming up. All right. So Paul's been working on you've got to, I don't remember how to do this in the Insta360 software, but you can do it so that you stay focusing on yourself. You can do it with keyframes, I guess, and there's maybe another way to do it as well. But then if you want to get some feedback on your technique, uh, we can look at it. But because like this, we can't really see what's happening. But right on, great effort. It looks like things are working. It looks like you're pushing off. We say small to tall to ball, and looks like you're landing the four loops. Awesome. Paul took the fast tack course, and his success is up from 1 out of 10 to 5 out of 10. So awesome. Thank you, Paul, for your kind words. If you're trying to improve your tags, you can go to mywindsurfingmasterclass.com, fast tag secrets, and sign up. All right, back to the Facebook group. Mike is looking for a foot strap recommendation. So he's got big, wide feet, and he's looking for a foot strap. I also have pretty wide feet. I'm happy with the Primos. There's a lot of good info, though, here in the comments. We've got 29 comments on this thread. And so if you've got wide, big feet and you're looking for straps, this is a great thread because there's a lot of people who put time into writing thoughtful responses. So thank you, everyone who responded. All right, Tarjay is sailing in Norway on the North Sea, and the ocean can be really choppy and the waves are clean, but it can be difficult turning around because of the heavy chop. And so he wants to go upwind, so he wants to tack, but he finds it difficult in those conditions. So first of all, I sound like a broken record, but I really recommend the tack course. I'm proud of it, and I'm even prouder of it after now. We've had, I think I'd have to check how many people have taken the course. I'm not sure, but the results are phenomenal. Everyone who has sort of let me know their progress after 4 weeks has seen a massive improvement in their tacks, going from 3 out of 10 to 8 out of 10, or 1 out of 10 to 5 out of 10. It's just a big thing. So the first thing I recommend, Tarjay, is to take this tech course that I put together. It was a lot of work to put this together and to distill everything in a way that should easily help you improve your tacks. You got to put in the work, you got to watch the course, do the exercises, but then you should improve your tacks. The tools are there. Anyway, one thing I want to add, though, specific to what you wrote, and it's what I wrote here, is to pay attention to the topology of the water. What does that mean? It means pay attention to how the surface of the water is moving and time your tack, locate your tack based on that topology to make it easier for you. So if you can do your tack in the direction of the energy of the chop or the swell, ride that chop, ride that swell, let it carry you, do the tack, keeping the energy from that swell in your board rather than traveling up the back of a swell. That's the worst place to do it, is traveling up the back of a swell, because it's like you're going uphill and you're losing speed, losing power. The slower you go, the more the board wants to sink. Now, if you're going out into the chops, you actually do kind of want to start it going uphill, because then you do the tack at the apex of that top chop or swell, and then you start falling behind the backside. And there's also a little bit of extra wind at the top of every chop or swell. You get just a little bit, depending how big the chop or swell is. Like really big swells, like mast and a half swells, you really feel the wind coming off the wave. Half a meter's chop or swell, you're going to feel a lot less extra wind, but that extra wind can help make the tack easier. And then as well, you're coasting downhill on the backside of that chop. So you want to do it at the top, and that way you're not traveling into a chop as you're going around in front of the mast. So really being attentive of the surface of the water can be helpful as well. In those tricky conditions, get out of the straps and grab the mast while still hooked in to help with your control. you can exaggerate getting low on the entry and the exit for more control. Those getting low is a great way to get control, whatever the conditions are. If you're going out and there's current and there's chop and you feel like the board is moving around and everything's crazy, get low. I do it all the time in my own windsurfing where I'm trying to get out through the white waters in a break, or when I just need to stabilize. I get really low, I put my chin on my chest, sink down low vertically. It's a great stable position. All right, moving on. So we already talked about this video, but we've got an update from Dennis. Oh, beautiful forward. Look at that forward, Dennis. Booyah. Dennis has been working on his forwards over the last couple of years, and this is an awesome one. He's getting that sail pushed into the wind, which is something that we've been talking about. Someone posted a video the other day of Mark Pare talking about this, and instead of thinking about pushing the sail into the wind, he thinks about it as twisting the hips downwind before you go into the rotation. And I really like that. I think that's also an interesting way to think about this. So that's another way that you can think about it is twisting those hips downwind before you pull the trigger on the rotation. I think that's awesome. All right. Next up, we've got this post from Greg, who's got a new board and stoked on it. Cool. So he's asking for experience tuning this board. My main advice, I mean, there's other people with experience with this board, a lot of people in the group, but my advice is play with it. Playing with a board is so important. Play with the mass track, and moving the mass track 1 centimeter makes the biggest difference. So move it a little bit forward, move it a little bit back, see how it feels. Play with the fins. The more you play with the board, the better you get to know it. So I really recommend it. All right, we got a question from Max, by the way. Hello, Christoph. Oh, you're in Greece. Nice. So Max is saying, should I sheet out on initiation of the tack as I struggle to reach the mast when hooked in? Should I sheet out on initiation of the tack? You want to sheet in on the initiation of the tack. Why are you having trouble reaching the mast when hooked in? Help me understand that. Is it because it's too far away? If it is, what you can do is you can, while still hooked in, kind of stand up, grab the mast, come back down again, and then maybe it's a little bit of an awkward position, but then you can unhook and go into the tack. The point is that by being hooked in, you're using your body weight to help stabilize everything, theoretically making it easier to have control over the rig. But maybe help me understand where the difficulty is. All right, moving on. All right, right on, Ragnar. We already talked about that, I think. If not, awesome. This is not a coaching video. It's just Ragnar's video from his trip to Pozo. So we're not going to go through it for a lot of coaching, but super cool to see. There's Daida. Yeah, there's some good action in here. So thank you for sharing. All right, we already talked about this from Jan about going vertical. And I think we're caught up. Are we caught up? I think we're caught up. Could that be? Yep. Looks like we're caught up. Awesome. That went smooth. All right. So Max says, it seems to be far away and I lose balance, but I've hooked out. I'm one-handed and lose the front hand. Sometimes the mast twists away. Yeah, I think it's definitely easier to do while you're hooked in. I wonder if your harness lines are too far back. That could be something. Do you feel like the sail is pulling forward a lot when you're sailing, Max? It could be that your harness lines are too far back. But otherwise, like it shouldn't be too hard to be able to stand up. You can kind of, while you're hooked in, kind of come just a little bit more upright to help grab the mast. Um, it might also be maybe that your harness is riding up, and so your harness, if your hook is really high, then it can be hard to get to the mast. But ideally, you want to be in a position where it's not that difficult to then grab the mast. Um, and so it's something that you can, yeah, get a video of it. A video of it would be great. And then maybe there's a small change that you can make with your gear. And then otherwise, it sounds like something good to practice. Doing all of these little things that are not sexy, but are really important skills, the more you work on them, the better your overall level gets, and it compounds. The better you are at these little things, they all add up, and so then you're having an easier time on the water, you're catching more waves, and you just get better faster and have more fun. Um, cool, awesome. You're happy with the harness. I'm happy to hear it. All right, guys, just like that, we are all caught up. I will be in Denmark next week, Sunday, and we will do the coaching. But uh, I'm not sure. No, we'll do the coaching. I was going to say that if the wind is blowing late, then I might have to. We'll see kind of how it is, but I think 9 o'clock should be fine to do the coaching next week. So post your comments, photos, videos, all of the above in the Facebook group. And I'm doing 2 masterclass weeks, windsurfing masterclass weeks in Denmark, and they start this weekend. For those of you who are on the weeks, I'm excited. I hope to see you soon. Look out for some updates from me in the WhatsApp groups. And yeah, I'm excited. I've got a few things to do to get ready, but yeah, looking forward. All right, everyone. I am going to sign off. I hope you have a windy week. Post your questions, comments, concerns, videos, photos, all of the above in the Facebook group. And I will see you next week, Sunday. All right, take care, everyone, and have a great week. Thank you for stopping by. If you want to improve your tax, check out my.windsurfingmasterclass.com. All right, everyone. Bye-bye.